Welcome everybody. This is the 16th Open for Business webinar being run by Ku-ring-gai Council. Here today we have Peter Strohkorb. Is that how you pronounce it, Peter?
Peter Strohkorb, yeah, that's
wonderful, great. So welcome to Peter. Peter is a sales specialist. He advises businesses across Australia, the US and the UK, and brings a lot of experience from the corporate world into how, particularly around B2B selling. So today he's going to be going over 10 steps to accelerate your sales revenue in 2020 and beyond. And this has a particular focus on B2B. Now, if you can have any questions, please put it in the Q&A box. Any comments, observations, please put them in the chat. I'll keep an eye on those, but I will be letting Peter do most of the heavy lifting. We're also having a Q&A session towards the end of the hour session, so please make sure you make a note of anything you want to know. I am recording the session and I will distribute this recording after the session, so if you miss anything, you can just refer back to the recording afterwards. So I won't waste any more of your time by you having to listen to me. Here is Peter and he is the expert. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you, Will, for the kind introduction. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. I should preface that I specialize in B2B, so business-to-business sales. If you're in retail, I'll try my best to help you, but that's not where my specialty lies, you know. And as Will said, I've worked in many guises over the last 20-odd years in multinational corporations like Sony, Canon, 3M, and CSC. I've founded 2 or 3 small businesses of my own, including my current sales acceleration advisory business, which is called imaginatively Peter Strohkorb Advisory. I've written 2 books on sales and marketing alignment and amplification, available in all good Amazon stores in 13 countries around the world. I also sit on a number of boards and advisory boards, in particular in the NDIS and not-for-profit space, and that's for personal reasons that I won't get into here now. But I'm a board director, and I'm an occasional guest lecturer at the Sydney Business School in the executive MBA program there. In my personal time, I have a family with 3 kids and a lovely wife, living in St. Ives. I've been playing for the local soccer team for must be coming up 15 years, although I did have this year off because I got injured. And I do like cooking and entertaining and serving fine wine with all that, and a good time is usually had by all. So that's enough about me. Let's talk about why you're here. Now, I want to talk to you about the market at the moment, just the way it is at the moment. I'm sure you're in it. I'm sure you're experiencing the ups and possibly the downs of the current pandemic, but I've just put some points here together, and that is that it is, in fact, truly, really global. You know, you can look at the stats here that come courtesy of Ernst & Young. The loss of gross domestic product around the world is just phenomenal. It's an overused word, but it is unprecedented. And our part of the world, Australia and New Zealand, is comparatively doing all right, believe it or not. And we're subject to a country by country and even state by state lockdown. And of course, you know that we've entered a recession officially for the first time in almost 30 years, I think 28 years. All that has had an effect on businesses slowing their decision making and delaying their investments, which is not good for the economy. So it's kind of this evil circle that happens, which then means people spend less, which means that you are experiencing a loss in sales revenue. Certainly the numbers for 2020 would have been much lower than competitive numbers for 2018 and 2019. That then has in turn had the effect that businesses are knee-jerking to cost cutting and total spending freezes. So my corporate customers have an edict from head office saying stop all spending. So they're not allowed to spend, even if they wanted to. The smaller and small medium businesses, they are kind of caught in the middle and they go, oh my God, the world's changing on me, what can I do? And the worst thing I say is, the worst thing you can do, I say, is that you do nothing, or even that you keep doing the same thing as last year and hoping for a different result. So I'm going to talk about how that impacts you and give you some tips in terms of some specific tips in terms of how to address that. Okay. So maybe let's use the chat function here. If you can tell me whether you sympathize or even identify with some of these points here, that you're struggling with lower revenue and smaller profits. You have stopped making decisions or are fearful of making decisions. And some of you are saying, we're waiting it out. You know, I've actually heard people say that to me and saying, no, we don't need your services. We're just waiting it out, which to me is crazy. That's probably, again, one of the worst things you can do is just cross your fingers and go, hope that everything will be all right. And so you've seen all the other points I've made. I've talked about.
Yeah, I just saw somebody's raised a hand in the Q&A. It's raised a hand, and also yes, and so in the chat we have. Sorry, I'm pressing the wrong buttons here. Do apologise. Yeah, all of the above. But then we have, I think we have to be particularly so we have to be particularly active in these difficult times, I guess. So we need to be taking action.
Yes. Okay. Now, thank you, Will. I will come to some of the specifics of what I suggest you do, because doing more of the same, doing more is not necessarily the answer, and doing more of the same as last year is not the answer either. So let me continue with that. Other symptoms in the current environment are that your channels to market are now limited. Like physical meetings are pretty much out, although things are getting better. But you still have phone, social media, and electronic means and channels available to you to reach out to your customers. And I'm talking about both in the sense of outbound. So that means you reaching out to your customers and to your prospects, proactively trying to draw them into a conversation, or as well as being visible on social media, online and in digital, to attract them to start a conversation with you. But the consequence of one of the consequences of the current pandemic is that your sales cycles are becoming longer. If it took, 2 or 3 months to find a new client and convince them to buy from you last year, it's probably going to take twice as long this year. Your customers, if they're in B2B, will likely not be making decisions by themselves. They will probably have a number of advisors that say, well, have you considered this, or did you think that? They will probably reach out to peers and colleagues and saying, have you heard about this service? What do you think? Sort of peer reviews. And there are many more stakeholders now involved in making a decision. And if you're a larger business, then you probably will have stricter approval parameters, which means you will be very strict in terms of who will get your business and why they will get your business and what they need to do, what hoops of fire they need to jump through to get your business. A lot of businesses have stopped or have deferred their longer term outlook strategies. It's all at the moment about quick return on the investment. Spend some money, get a result. Spend some money, get a result. Not invest for something like 2 or 3 years down the track. It's all gone much more short term now. The very important point is this last one here, that we now need to convey a business reason, a business case for our clients, our customers to buy from us. Again, this is in B2B. So if you can help them shape their business case and make sense of the investment to buy from you, then that'll be a good thing. Now, that's not really any different from last year or the year before. But what's now coming into it is that you also need to supplement the logic with EQ, emotional quotient. So with emotional intelligence, with sympathy and empathy. I'll talk some more about that as well. Now, Gay Levery said that we have to be particularly active in difficult times. So thank you, Gail. The confirmation of what you just said is on the screen. So there's a man called Roland Weil who lived in 1889 to 1970, and he completed his master's at Harvard in 1924. So it's a little bit old, but don't forget the last pandemic was, around that time. And he took it upon himself to research the effects of crises on business. And very importantly, what businesses can do to not only survive the crisis, but come out of it better as well. And he found that those companies that decreased their spending on advertising and marketing not only came out of the recession in worse shape, they also didn't recover, or they didn't recover as quickly as those that had kept spending. Now, if you think about it, that actually makes sense, right? Because when times are tough and people are not spending, then by you spending on advertising and promotion and being top of mind, you help them to remember you when the purse strings open again and they want to spend money again. Whereas the ones that have disappeared from view will find it much harder to remind people that they still exist. So it might actually cost you less to keep spending just a little bit to keep top of mind, even during a downturn, so that when you come out on the other side, people remember you and they spend money with you. So that makes kind of commonsensical sense as well, but Roland Vale has proved it in this Harvard study. So thank you, Gal, for making that point. You're absolutely right. Okay, now it's not all gloom and doom. There is a bit of a silver lining on the horizon, because you may have seen this happened just this week, that Pfizer made an announcement saying, sorry, it's Pfizer and BioNTech together made an announcement saying that their vaccine is proven to be 90+% effective against COVID-19. Now, they didn't say that the vaccine is 100% safe. That's a different matter again, right? But it is 90% effective. Now, our Prime Minister has gone up and he said, yes, we're going to get a copy of that and we'll start rolling it out and hopefully we'll have it from March 2021. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that come April, everything will be back to normal. But you can see how the end is coming, the end of the crisis is coming. And we need to now start thinking about how will we prepare our businesses to take advantage of that upturn. So we've already seen the share markets rally on the arrival of the news, and it's given everybody new hope and new opportunities and new impetus to spend money, which is good for your business, good for the economy. So it's now the time to think about how can you prepare your business for 2021. So I've put together here a few things that your customers would currently be looking for from you. So they're saying, empathize with me. Understand that I have budget constraints. I can't spend money on everything. So you need to be really good at justifying why I should spend money with you. Again, use your EQ and your IQ. Proving that you've been here before and you've helped clients like me and they've come out better at on the other end as a result is really important now. So have your proof cases, have your testimonials, have your references. Now, also don't reach out to me cold and offer me something that you have no idea whether I need it or not. Do your research and make sure that whatever you're offering is relevant to me, put it into the context of my business. And probably most important of all, make me feel like you're on my side. You're helping me to make an informed decision to buy the right thing. By all means, challenge my thinking, don't challenge me personally. If you have a point of view that's different to everybody else and you can justify it, that's a really great thing to have. And I'll elaborate on that a bit more in a minute. So that means that whenever you reach out proactively, outbound to a new prospect, you really need to have something to engage them with and not just ambush them. So you need to be able to inform, educate, and guide them instead of selling to them. You need to be a subject matter expert that can help me make an informed buying decision. And so if you've been using Salesforce automation, marketing automation, email blasts, or maybe outsourced cold calling, you're probably going to find that it's less effective in 2020 than it was in 2019 and 18. All right. So what do they want? I've given you 3 points here that I'd like you to consider for your business. No one, including you, wants to be ambushed and sold to. You know, we don't mind if somebody has a point of view that's different, that's interesting, that's intriguing, and somebody that helps me to make an informed buying decision. Also, very important, you need a consistent, scalable, and of course, effective sales process. So a lot of small business owners come to me and they say, oh, we need more sales. We need more leads. And my first question to them is, do you have a sales process? And they go, oh no, I'm just going to hire a sales rep and they're going to bring a process with them. Big mistake. Because yes, a sales rep may have a way that they sell, but it may not be actually what I would call a sales process. They might just have a way of reaching out to somebody, ringing them up, maybe on LinkedIn, maybe as an email, and connecting with them and then selling them something. So they have a sales process of some sort. But then what happens if you hire a second salesperson and they have a different sales process, and a third and a fourth and a fifth, you end up with half a dozen or more different sales processes that will all be inconsistent with each other and that will potentially confuse your clients, and they will take their business elsewhere because a confused mind says no. Whereas if you have a consistent, scalable and effective sales process, then it means you can plug more salespeople into it and more sales will come out of it. You can put more leads into the top of that sales funnel and more sales will drop out the bottom. So you set your business up for growth and for success into the future, rather than just having quick, get me a sales rep. So it makes, strategically speaking, much more sense to have an effective sales process that is scalable and, very importantly, also that is customer focused. And I'll talk some more about that too. Very importantly, you need to have a very clear value proposition, something that intrigues your prospects. Because if you reach out to your prospects, they will probably give you 30 seconds of their time before they decide in their own mind whether you're wasting their time or whether you've got something interesting to say. So while you're still talking about your business and saying, oh, you know, we have this and we are that and we have these customers and we've got this many people and, you know, they're thinking, well, what's in it for me about that? So your first outreach, the objective of your first outreach to a prospect must not be to sell. I know this is counterintuitive, but the first point of contact with your prospect must be to intrigue them, to interest them, to create what I call a lean forward moment. You know, where you say something and they lean forward and they say, Peter, tell me more about that. And at that point, at that lean forward moment, that's when they've given you their explicit permission to sell to them, not before. Now, they may not even know it that they've given you the permission, but just simply by asking, they've given you the right to talk about your organization, your products, your services, your customers, what you've done before, where you've been successful, and help them to understand that what you're selling is actually very interesting to them. So think about a clear value proposition and a lean forward moment that you need to create. All right, so how do we do that? What I'm suggesting is that you go away from thinking about, oh my God, we've got all these products to sell, all these services to sell, and I've got these sales targets to meet. How can I meet my sales targets? Which is inward looking, worried about how we want to sell, to a customer focus. And the customer focus is, if my sales process looks like, you know, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, then what does that look like to the customer? If we turn around and look at it from the customer's perspective, what does our sales process look like if we make it customer focused? And I've put customer centricity here as well, because the difference between customer focus and customer centricity is that customer focus could be a particular campaign. It could be your sales process. It could be a single person's perspective. Whereas customer centricity is when the entire organization at every touch point with the customer is aimed at helping that customer to make an informed decision to buy from us. So you've all heard of Amazon, you've all heard of Jeff Bezos, that he says, in everything we do, we keep the customer in mind. And folklore has it that Jeff Bezos in his strategy meetings actually has an empty chair in the boardroom. And that empty chair is the imaginary customer. And apparently in these strategy sessions, he often turns around and points at the empty chair and says, what would the customer say? You know? And that's a really neat trick to make sure that you don't start internalizing everything and looking at it from the lens of the business inside out. You want to look at it from the customer's outside in perspective. So customer centricity means the whole organization is focused on what do we look like to the customer at every touch point. And that's really the key, the recipe for success in 2020 and 21. Because if we're focused on what we want to sell and how we want to sell, we're not going to be as successful as if we're focused on how does the customer want to buy. All right. Now, if you say, well, how do we do that? How do we become a customer-centric organization? Then take note of these 7 points. You know, take a picture, stick it up on your wall, make sure all your staff are aware of it, because if you keep any one of these or all of these points top of mind, your customers will have a superior experience. Yeah. So obviously, by the way, none of them are rocket science. I've just put them here together just for a summary purpose, but they'll be hugely valuable in you implementing customer focus and customer centricity into your organization. So make the customer feel like they're in charge, like they're important to you. If you make a promise, keep it. Very simple. Don't give me problems, bring me solutions. So for example, if a sales rep has in their mind, oh my God, it's close to the end of the month, I haven't reached my sales targets, I'm going to put pressure on my prospects to buy from me. That's projecting your problem onto your customers. They don't care about that. They don't care about your problems. They've got enough of their own. They just want you to solve their problems, not bring your problems to them as well. Then, of course, show that you care, which is again related to point 1 above. Next one, if you do something, be fair and be equitable. And number 6, be clear, no sneaky tricks, no surprises. And if something goes wrong, be quick to act or react. Don't shift blame and say, oh, the dog ate my homework. It's got nothing to do with me, or it's somebody else's fault. The customer doesn't care. If something goes wrong, just fix it. And by the way, little tip, if something does go wrong, the first words out of your mouth when the customer complains should be, oh my God, we're very concerned about that. And again, that shows that you care. But just by saying we're very concerned about that, you're not trivializing that problem. You're actually saying, look, that's important to me that we fix this. And then you actually do what you promise, number 2, that, you show them that you care and that they are important to you. So again, they may not be rocket science, but they'll be hopefully very useful for you to consider what do you need to do and what the mindset needs to be like in your business to be customer focused. Yep. Does that make sense? Somebody type in, please, and just give me a bit of feedback. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Okay. Now I've hinted about the sales funnel. So this is the traditional sales funnel where you have prospects. By the way, if you're not familiar with the terminology, you have suspects. So this is a list of people that you might want to contact. Once you contact them, they become prospects. Once they buy from you, they become customers. So you loaded new fresh prospects into the top of the funnel. You engage with them. You nurture the leads. They become leads. Then you nurture them. Then they get handed over to sales if you have a sales and marketing team, and then they eventually drop out as a sale. Okay, this is the sales funnel that most businesses have been operating in since 1898, when it was first invented. Not 1998, 1898. And I have some strong concerns about this sales funnel, even though it was a brilliant concept 120 years ago. But in the 2020s, it's really no longer relevant because it is inward looking. It looks at how we want to sell and not how customers want to buy. It's very generic and it's kind of a bit outdated. So what I propose is we need a modern sales funnel, one that works in the 2020s, that is customer focused, like I said, that helps you to get more sales faster so it accelerates your sales process and is less leaky in the sense that fewer of the leads that you put in will actually fall away and not result into business. So in other words, turn it around, more of the leads that you put in will turn into sales. And what I've done is I've reimagined the sales funnel and I've identified 10 touch points or 10 elements that you need to heed to make it successful and to make it relevant for the 2020s. Now, if you want to compare your current sales funnel to this new model for free, and it'll only take you 5 or 10 minutes, please go to the website, peterstrohkorb.com/sales-acceleration, and click on this image, and you will get to a website that where you can actually compare your sales funnel to the new model, and it'll give you some tips. And I promise you, even if you spend 5 or 10 minutes on it, it'll give you some inspiration and something to think about in terms of what you can do better in 2021 to prepare your business for the new environment, for what we call the new normal, or as I've heard, the next normal, because it's not necessarily going to be new. So do that. But what I'll do now, if with your permission, is I'll actually take you quickly through all the 10 steps so that you get an idea of what I'm talking about here. Right? So I will, thank you. Will says he will share the link by email after the session as well. So thank you, Will, that's very kind of you. So number one is, what is your brand promise? So even without knowing a customer or a prospect knowing anything about your organization, how can you convey in maybe a tagline or some sort of slogan what they can reasonably expect, what experience they can reasonably expect from you when they do business with you? You know, so it can't be a motherhood statement. So it can't be like, we really care, or we're the best. You know, it must be something succinct that helps them to understand what they can get, what they can experience they can get from you. So for example, I've got a client in the IT outsourcing business. They look after small businesses, IT outsourcing. So they look after your IT systems, your backup, your uptime and security and all that. And the slogan that we came up together was, we've got your back. And it means that even when you're not looking, when you're not aware that we're doing stuff in the background to keep your systems up and productive and safe, we've got your back. And when something goes wrong, we've got your back as well. We'll be on your side. We'll be there next to you, shoulder to shoulder, fixing this issue that has arisen. Right? So we've got your back. It's just a very simple way of explaining to the customer, what can I expect from doing business with these people? And so you should think about your business in terms of, what could I say that gives my customers a really good idea in terms of what to expect from doing business with me? And it's very important that that's authentic and not just motherhood. Okay, number two. You probably have a catalog of services or products that you're selling. You know, they might even be on your website. Now, it's astonishing to me how often the description of those services or products are couched in terms that are either jargon or are seen from the vendor's perspective, not from the customer's perspective. So all I'm saying is, be crystal clear about what you're selling, so your customers can go, oh yeah, I need that, or no, I don't need it. Because if they say, oh, I don't understand what that is, then it'll be just the same as saying, I don't need it. Because the saying is that a confused mind says no. All right, this is the most important point of all 10. You must have a strong value proposition, and you must be able to convey a point of difference at the first contact with your customer or with your prospect. And I talked about the lean forward moment. What is the single sentence that you can use, the single sentence that you can say to somebody that makes them lean forward and say, tell me more, Will? And like I said, at that point, they've given you that permission to sell to them. So create something that, think of something that creates that lean forward moment. And if you look in, if you go to the checklist that I talked about, it will give you some tips in terms of how to go about that and consider it. And of course, then I've got a service to help you with that as well. So next point is, who are ideal customers? Because if you want to have a sales process in a sales funnel, then you should think about who wants to buy, or whom do we want to sell to our products and services. Because once you have a clear idea of who your ideal target and your ideal prospects are, then you can target them much more in a much more focused way and much more succinctly. So think about, what industry are they in? What size is their business? Who are the people within the organization that we want to target? Like, what are their job titles? Geographically speaking, where are they located? And anything else that you can think about in terms of identifying the personas that you want to reach out to. Because once you've identified who they are, then you can think about, where do these people hang out? What do they consume in terms of content? Whom do they listen to? Where can I find them? And that could be like physical, like a place. It could be online, or it could be in a virtual event. And then, of course, once you've identified who they are, you've identified where they are, you then need to reach out to them, but not just reach out to them, you also need to engage them and draw them into a conversation. And this is where you use your value proposition, your USP, unique selling proposition or unique value proposition, to intrigue them and to create that lean forward moment again. Right? So that's why I'm saying that number 3, the value proposition, is super, super important, because if you don't have that, then you might know where your customers are and who they are, but you find it difficult to engage with them and draw them into a conversation. Now, I've said here, how do we eliminate our competitors? Because the assumption is that if you're in B2B, you will not be the only one bidding for that business. You know, there'll be probably 2 or 3 others in the race. And my question is, how can you make sure that your business is the last man or woman standing to win the business, right? Now, I've had some pushback from people, particularly in the non-profit sector, to the term eliminate our competitors. So I've started saying fend off our competitors. You know, slight difference, but yeah, in some cases they don't like the term eliminate. But in the dog-eat-dog B2B world, eliminate is often being used, right? But my point is, if you want to differentiate yourself or your business from your competitors, do not speak badly about them. It'll only reflect badly on you. You know? In fact, you should praise them. You should praise, yes, these other guys, they're really good. I hear they're really good at these things that we don't do. Or they're really good, but we're different because, right? So don't say they're bad, because that only reflects negatively on you. You need to find a way to differentiate yourselves. And I have a methodology to differentiate your business from anybody else's business in B2B. And that is by raising a subject that probably your competitors will not raise. And because you'll be the only one that brings it up with that matter up with the buyer, they will go, oh, nobody else has brought that up before. Why not? You're the only one. So I think I want to trust you now. What else can you tell me about that? You know, why do you tell me that and nobody else does? Sorry, my phone's ringing. Just get rid of it. There you go. So do not badmouth them. Make yourself the better vendor. Talk to me if you want to know what that one thing is. I'll be happy to share it with you. Now, how can you use your sales proposals to win? So again, if you're in B2B, you will probably be asked to submit a proposal. where you talk about what is your product or service, what are the terms and conditions, how much is it, and anything else. Right? And it's of course very important what goes into the proposal in terms of the content, but I also have a technique in terms of how to use the proposal to differentiate yourself and to make yourself stand out from the crowd. And I will share with you what that looks like. So imagine a customer or a prospect has come to you and said, "Will, send me a proposal." Now, ironically, perhaps counterintuitively, I say to my clients, the worst thing you can do at that point is to send them a proposal. Why? Because you don't know whether your proposal is one that they really want, or whether it's one that just makes up the numbers if their procurement guidelines say we need to get 3 different quotes. Right? So there's a very simple technique that you can use to find out whether they're serious about your business or whether you're just making up the numbers. And the technique is to say this: "Yes, Will, we will give you a proposal. Thanks very much for asking. But it's very important to us that our proposal hits the mark for you. Can we get together next Thursday at 2 o'clock and together walk through the draft proposal to make sure that it meets your requirements?" Now, if Will says, "Yeah, that sounds good, 2 o'clock on the Thursday," or, "Oh, I can't do 2, let's do 3, whatever." But as long as they accept the proposal, you go, "Yeah, they must be reasonably serious about our proposal." Right? And in the call, if it's online, or in the meeting, if it's face-to-face, you can walk together through the proposal and give the customer, the prospect, an opportunity to comment on what you're saying. And they might say, "Oh, we didn't actually mean that, but we wanted this other thing." And you can fix things up that you had misunderstood. Or you can clarify points if they're not quite clear. But in any case, you get another meeting with the customer, you get the opportunity for them to help you with your proposal, and you can eliminate any misunderstandings or unclarities, if that's a word, that are in your proposal. Right? Now, what do you think it might mean if they say, no, that's fine. Just send the proposal through as it is. So it could mean that they have total confidence in your proposals and they've done business with you before and they're fine with everything. Or it could mean that they go, no, look, you're not really important to me. You're just making up the numbers. So ask, when somebody says, "Can you send me a proposal?" ask for an opportunity to go through the draft proposal with them. I have a client in America who's in a very specialized business looking after governance, and he just won a major contract because the customer felt that by giving them the opportunity to walk through the proposal and helping them make sure that the proposal hits their requirements, they said, "Wow, you really care. Nobody else has offered us that." And they actually created a better impression of their business, of their service, than anybody else. So the customer didn't actually see it as extra work and an extra investment in their time. They saw it as valuable to help them make sure that they're getting a proposal that suits their requirements. Right? So can you please type in whether you think that was useful and whether you intend to use that next time somebody asks you for a proposal? Right. Thank you.
We have some raised hands as well.
Thank you, Alison. Yeah, by the way, if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them in not just at the end, but during the presentation as well. So go right ahead.
Just while you ask that, Peter, there is a question that was asked early on from Scott, and it's while it is clear spending is an issue, this is obviously spending for businesses, do you see any interest in spending in B2B or SaaS products that will help save money, or are they just keeping the hold and wait? Does that make sense to you?
Yes. SAS is software as a service.
Right. Yeah.
So look, the yes and no. Sorry, who asked the question?
This is from Scott.
Scott. Okay, thank you, Scott, for asking the question. The answer is it depends. As I said earlier, if you can show a clear way to get a return on the investment in the short term, then they will probably be very interested. If your ROI, your return on investment, is some time out, they will probably think twice about whether they want to spend the money right now or not. And a lot of uncertainty creates deferment of sales. So that means that they don't say no, but they don't say yes either. They just push the decision out, and it drives salespeople and sales managers crazy because it messes up their forecast, right? So as I said in the beginning, if you can help the customer to create a business case, a justification for making that purchase or for expending those funds, then of course they will buy from you. If you can't help them create a business case, your chances are pretty slim that they'll buy from you. I hope that makes sense, Scott. Please type in, oh good, he says yes, thanks. All right, so that's it about proposals. I do have another step if the customer says, no, just send it through. I do have another technique to use that, and I'll be happy to discuss that with you in a personal call after this session. All right, now we talked about customer experience as point 9. And believe it or not, it is now super critical to your selling success that your customers are having a good experience at every touch point with your business. Not just with your sales reps, not just with your website, even with your accounting and finance department. Because I tell you what, if you send a wrong invoice out to somebody, or you don't acknowledge a payment, that's just as bad as you having a typo on your website. So ask yourself, how successful are you at managing your buyers' interactions with your business at every touch point, right? So think about the 7 points that I displayed for you earlier. Do those apply to every touch point with your customers? Because if they don't, you might get that reaction of that lady on the screen here, right? And again, they're super important to your selling success. Last but not least, if you create a superior customer experience at every touch point, you will turn your customers into advocates, meaning they will come back to you time and time again to buy more from you, so you get repeat business. But not just that, they will also reach out to all their friends, colleagues, and acquaintances in their network and say how great it is to do business with you. And you get referral business. And let me tell you, referral business is the easiest business to close because you come pre-qualified. You don't have to convince somebody that you're great. Somebody else already made that assessment for you. And your customers sort of, if they receive a referral and contact you, they're already half sold. You know, it's your business to lose, right? So it's really worth it creating customer advocacy because you get more repeat business and more new business through referrals. Now there's a stat that statistics that IBM and Lee Resources came up with a couple of years ago, and they said, following a negative customer experience, how many customers will actually tell you that they've had a bad experience? So the simple example is you go into a coffee shop and you buy a cup of coffee and it's terrible. How many people do you think will tell the barista or tell the waitress or tell the person behind the counter that their coffee is terrible and that they're not happy? And the statistics that IBM and Lee Resources came up with was that it was 4% of customers would go and say, your coffee is terrible, make me another one, or give me a refund. A full 96% will quietly walk away, not say anything, but warn all their friends and colleagues off going to that coffee shop because your experience was bad. So a bad experience will be amplified enormously. Unfortunately, a good experience will not be amplified as much, but it just means that you need to work really hard on your customer experience to create customer advocacy so you can avoid the 96% syndrome, and that your business is one that gets repeat business and referral business, right? because customer advocacy brings repeat revenue and new business. All right, so those were the 10 points. Now, after having been through this, consider for your business, is your sales funnel like one on the left where you're looking at the way that you want to sell? Or is it like one on the right where it's aimed at helping your customers on a process and to guide them to make an informed decision to buy from you? That last bit is very important, to buy from you, because if you just educate them, they might go and buy and use that knowledge to buy from somebody else. But the important thing is that you educate and guide them to trust you, to believe you, and to buy from you. Now, if you want to find out whether your sales funnel is more on the left or more on the right and what you can do to shift it, then again, go to my website and have a look at the sales funnel, and Will has already agreed to sharing that with you after this session, right? So your job for the remainder of 2020 and to start 2021 is to build yourself a modern sales and marketing funnel that is effective, that is scalable, and that is customer focused. Now, I also encourage you from a tactical perspective to do customer surveys and customer satisfaction reviews, where you ask them, how happy are you with us? You know, that yes, there is a bit of survey fatigue out there, but if you use the right technique, which again, I'm happy to talk to you about offline, you will find out what your customers really think about you, what they really like that you do, what they wish that you would do that you're not doing, but your competitors are doing, or what they wish you would stop because it drives them crazy. Also, if you win a big deal, or even maybe not a huge deal, or if you lose a big deal or not so a huge deal, find out why you won, or find out why you lost that deal. Now, why would your customers tell you? Because if you couched in the sense of, let me help you to do better next time so you get a more competitive bid from us, that's actually in the interest of your customer. And so if you ask your customer to help you do a better job next time, it's actually in their interest. Now, both those win-loss reviews and voice of the customer programs work even better if they're done by a neutral third party. Because if somebody like me comes in as Switzerland and says, look, let me find out why Will won or lost that deal, or what you really think about Will, they'll be more inclined to tell me because they don't have to have a relationship with me, and they're not risking their relationship with Will. So strangely, they'll actually tell a stranger more and more detailed and more frankly what they really think than they will tell you directly. It's just human nature. So my recommendation is have a sales funnel that's customer centric, effective, and scalable, but also check with your customer. You know, how happy are you with us? How can we improve? What do you like? What don't you like? What do you really hate? What do you wish that we do that we don't do currently? All right. So again, there's the website there, and you can go and have a look at the sales funnel and talk to me about that afterwards. So if you have any questions, please either put them into the chat. Will, how does it work?
Just whack any questions you've got in the Q&A box, please, guys. And if you've got any observations or anything else you want to say, put it in the chat. I think that one of the key points you came up with very early, Peter, is that I thought was very telling is how many companies pull back from sales and marketing when things get difficult. And it seems so counterintuitive, but I guess it's an easy cost to chop. But as that experience of the guy back in the Depression said, it's one of the worst things you can possibly do for your long-term performance. But I think, I've heard a number of these presentations, and what comes through to me is this brand authenticity. Making sure you're backing up what you're doing through all your touch points. It's not just about your sales guys getting it right, but about everybody, including those in your finance department, etc. So I think, having a look at that is really Really, really worthwhile. I just got a comment from James, just to say thank you for your time and expertise. Really helpful. So that's some nice positive feedback for you there, Peter. So if anybody else has any feedback, but specifically if anybody has any questions at the moment. Now, Peter, your presentation was pretty detailed, so I think there's a lot for people to digest. It's from Scott, another comment. Love the funnel, starting with the brand, product, promise, value proposition, sales people, salespeople.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, you can see it. Yeah, often only want leads to meet their quotas and don't always see the value of understanding your own solution and customer in detail. A solution to help sales through this would be awesome. So, and everybody also, Scott says, what do you see stop salespeople from doing this level of preparation before meeting prospects? What is their pain point?
Okay, so Scott's absolutely right that it's quite common for salespeople to think, how can I sell my product? And that mindset makes us talk about ourselves. You know, we have these products and we're so great, and we have this and we have that. And Scott, I call that we syndrome. This is where we talk about we. But after the third we, the customer's turning off. And they go, well, you haven't made any value proposition to me. You haven't told me what's in it for me at all. All you've done is talked about yourself. So if we change our mindset and we use the customer-focused sales funnel, we can actually help the customer to understand the context in which our solution, our service, our product fits into their business and helps them solve a problem. So we've actually got to put ourselves into the customer's shoes and say, what do we look like from your perspective, and how can we help you solve a particular problem?
Great. Got a question from Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have or can recommend key KPI based on customer-centric focus, including in the new model?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it's a tragedy that sales revenue has become pretty much the sole metric to measure salespeople on. You know, and there's some businesses out there, particularly in the IT sector, that are very brutal on that. You either perform or you don't perform, and then if you don't perform, you're out. You know, and that makes salespeople do more but not do better. So all of a sudden, instead of reaching out to 10 people a day, I want to reach out to 20 people a day. But because I've now got less time to reach out to them and to create a meaningful connection, I actually rush them and try to qualify them either in or out in the first 5 minutes. Right?
I guess that impacts authenticity as well of the sale, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. And the customers can sense that, right? And they go, I'm just a number to you, you know. And if you remember the 7 points of customer experience, the first one was make me feel like I'm important. If I go to you, Will, are you ready to buy or not? How important do you feel? You know?
Don't feel very special there, Peter.
So that's right, because it's all about me, right?
Yep.
And so the KPIs, in my personal opinion, KPIs should expand. If we're talking about sales KPIs, should expand on the quality of interaction and the quality of engagement as well. There are actually ways to measure them. It's not as airy-fairy and nebulous as you might think. But to me, it's much more important, especially if you're selling longer sales cycle, more complex sales, and more higher value products or services. To me, it's more important that you have a smaller number of really good engagements than a whole bunch of half-baked engagements.
Yeah.
Right? And so I would like to expand the KPIs. Yes, still measure revenue because you got to get a result, but also measure the quality of the interaction. And there are actually tools around to help you measure that too. So again, Paul, if you want to take that offline, I would be happy to guide you on that.
And I guess on that point is you were talking about feedback mechanisms that you can use. And I guess that if you do that right, then you'll get a better understanding of how your sales process is actually working and whether or not people feel that it's very transactional, or whether or not it's more of a relationship building exercise. Because I guess in B2B particularly, those long-term relationships are so important, because you could be having you could have only a small number of clients, but keeping those relationships alive and well is so very important, isn't it?
Yeah, just on that, Will, we've got to differentiate between relationship and selling.
Yeah, of course.
Because the saying is that nice guys come last, right? So you still got to ask for the sale, and you still got to present value, and you still got to help the client or the customer to create a business case. But of course they must trust you. It almost doesn't matter whether they like you or not, but they must be able to trust what you're saying.
Great. Just a comment, hearing about such marketing expertise is very helpful for us entrepreneurs who may well be more product service orientated than customer centric. The new funnel is very helpful here. Thanks, Peter. So just a thank you there for that sales funnel. I think that your new sales funnel has clearly been a hit here, Peter. So that's all very
Go and
good.
get one, everybody.
Go and get one. So yes, as I said, I'll share that link. I'll get the video process so I can share it with you. Sometimes that takes a day or two because we have to sometimes reformat it. But so I'll get that to you in a day or two. Now, before we wrap up, it's 4 minutes to 12, 3 minutes to 12. Does anyone have any further questions or comments? Please do so now or forever hold your peace.
Well, I'm just typing in the website again, just here into the chat.
Right. So Peter's
so
doing
people can
that.
just copy that down and just have a look. I do actually. Will, do you mind if I just talk about an offer that I have?
Yes, of course.
So once you've completed the checklist, I actually give you a little try before you buy offer, right? In the sense that you've gone through the checklist, you've self-assessed where your opportunities for improvement are, and I'll make myself and my skill set and my expertise available to you in a one-on-one call to help you resolve one of those challenges that you've self-identified in the call. And I do that for the following reasons. One is I'd like you to understand whether I bring value to your business or not. So you can make that assessment for yourself. Secondly, you will experience how I work, and you can assess whether there's a good fit for us to work together. And then, of course, all that leads to you being able to make an informed decision whether you want to do something together or not, right? And the main reason I'm doing that is that there's now thousands of unemployed former executives out there who all propose to be consultants, and you don't know what you're getting if you don't try it before you buy it. So I'm being really fair to everybody by giving them an opportunity to assess whether I can give them value or not.
Right. So that's a good offer there from Peter. So please do take it up if you can. I will send this information around as soon as I have the video sorted. So just quickly, I'm just going to double check. Any more questions, anyone?
I think Scott had one here.
Yes. What is one thing a salesperson can change in their day today to change the way they see the customer and prepare for meetings?
Well, so one thing is if you are in a world where you're actually seeing the customer face to face, don't prepare for the meeting in the car park outside their building. Do your homework. You know, and if you can ask them questions. So if you go back to the 1970s when Neil Rackham came out with spin selling, he said you need to ask lots of questions about the business to find out their pain point, and then you can address the pain point. You don't have that right anymore. Your customers now, or your prospects now, expect you to have done your homework online and done your research about them, so that you don't waste their time saying, you know, why do you exist and what do you even do? Right? It is okay though to use that information to ask more meaningful questions. You know, so for example, have a look at if they're a publicly listed company, have a look at their annual report. You know, and look at their who's on their board and who are the executives and what do they talk about on LinkedIn or on social media, you know. So there's lots of ways you can do homework on your prospects before you reach out to them, just so you have some knowledge about what makes them tick and you look like you know what you're talking about in their context. So Scott, that's a very simple answer.
And Lee has a comment. If you are meeting with a potential client, should you use a presentation or have a face-to-face discussion first?
Leave your slide deck at home. You know, no, I know the Americans say that you should bring a slide deck and then you go through it and then the customer can ask questions and stuff like that. But the slide decks usually are about us, you know, we, right? It's much better that you have an intelligent conversation with the prospect, particularly the more senior they are, the fewer details they want to know. And they just want to know, can you help me? Have you done it before? How much is it going to cost me? How long will it take? What are the risks, right? So if you can carry a conversation, leave your slide deck at home.
Good.
Oh, and by the way, if you're selling software, don't start with the demo. Right? There's all number of websites where they say, you know, try before you buy, you know, 14 months free, book a demo here, you know. But really, what as a customer, what I want to know is not how does your software work. I want to know what outcomes will it create for my business. Right? And
can it solve my problem?
And so, yeah, and so you need to lead with that and not with let's just do a demo.
I guess that takes us back to the we, doesn't it, Peter? Because you're just we look at my wonderful product, not okay. This is your problem, and this is how the product will actually solve your problem.
And if you, by the way, Will, if you go to my website, you will find an article there about we syndrome.
Okay.
There are I think 163 articles about sales and marketing on my LinkedIn profile, so you can knock yourself out there.
I will also use this internally. I deal with a lot of technical people in a government context, and they often talk in their own language and expect everybody to understand it. So I will certainly use the we with them. They might actually understand. So that's great. So it's 12, just gone 12 o'clock. So if nobody has any more questions, I just want to thank Peter so much for your time. It's been really, really informative. I think your sales funnel, alternative sales funnel, has really hit the mark for a lot of people. A lot of useful information in there. So I will be sharing this, but so everyone can catch up on it later. But again, Peter, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you, Bill. And I've just put my email address in there as well, just in case.
Wonderful.
Right.
I'll share that via email as well, everybody, so you can contact Peter directly.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining me, and thank you, Will, for having me on.
No worries. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you all very soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.